Currently serve as chairman of the Package Coalition, as Lori mentioned. And let me tell you a little bit about this organization. It's a very diverse group of some of America's most recognizable, most iconic companies, e-commerce, business associations, and was formed so that policymakers could hear directly from businesses that are involved and use the Postal Service as to the importance of preserving that fair competition in the package delivery business and preserve that reliable, affordable package delivery network. Nearly all of our members are engaged in the broader debate on needed reforms now to ensure the continued viability of the USPS. That debate has really been active since we passed the last bill in 2006. And in this Congress, both the chair of the Oversight Committee, Chairwoman Maloney, and the ranking member, Congressman Comer, have indicated they have a shared interest in moving bipartisan postal reform, and we wish them all the best in that endeavor. But as policymakers discuss those efforts at reform, we believe they should look for solutions that support the Postal Service's role as an essential service and a critical part of the nation's economic infrastructure. Reforms, we believe, must allow continued growth of the USPS's package delivery business, which just last year brought $11 billion to the USPS's bottom line. It's a critically important part of the Postal Service network, and certainly it's one of its core strengths as derived through an integrated delivery network for mail and packages at least 6 days a week. Now, to state the obvious, 2020 was a difficult time for Americans writ large. It was certainly a difficult time for businesses, and the Postal Service didn't take a pass on that, didn't receive any exemptions. As COVID-19 rates rose and more families stayed at home and turned away from shopping in stores and instead got invaluable medicines and household goods and other products through the mail, the Postal Service was put under a great deal of new pressure. In addition, postal workers were hard hit by the virus. They stayed on the front lines. Many of them became infected. Sadly, some suffered loss of life, but they continued to deliver the mail. And then in December, Postal Service faced what we now see was an unprecedented volume of holiday packages. And now there's no question that all of these issues and the confluence of these issues created service degradation. And many of the member companies you will hear from today are and have been committed to working with the Postal Service to help them to become more effective, to help them become more efficient. But we shouldn't draw the wrong lessons from the recent peak season. We need more competition, not less. We need more capacity, not less. Private carriers like UPS and others really shrunk from the challenge at hand. What did they do? They fired customers, and they put strict shipping limits on many others, even from some of the top nations' retailers. UPS and others also impose rural and residential delivery surcharges on many Americans. Now, I'm a capitalist, and that may well be a good strategy for UPS and its shareholders, but for many, many Americans, it's a stark message, and it's certainly a stark message for American businesses and consumers. And where do you think all those packages that UPS and others wouldn't take on were going and are continuing to go? They went to the USPS. Postal Service doesn't turn away a customer. The Postal Service doesn't turn away packages. And again, service suffered when they were overwhelmed during the pandemic and holiday peak. But as always, the Postal Service worked to eventually deliver every package and every piece of mail they received to every address in the United States 6 days a week.
For CVS Health, the Postal Service enables us to cost-effectively ship to all areas of the United States and to our military and diplomatic teams around the world via APO, FPO, and DPO addresses. Within the United States, CVS Health relies on the Postal Service to reliably and affordably deliver mail-order medicines to the most remote locations, to the most populated urban areas, and to all locations in between. Now more than ever, our patients are relying on the Postal Service to receive critical deliveries of medicines and other health supplies at home. For many Americans living in remote and rural locations, the Postal Service is a lifeline that provides them access to needed medicines. The advent of the COVID crisis brought an increase of our mail order medicines in the initial COVID months and a much more significant increase of over 1,000% for our home deliveries from our retail pharmacies. We see similar trends across our industry. With fewer and fewer healthcare facilities in rural communities, 20% of Americans rely on the mail system to receive prescription medications. More than 1 in 5 older Americans live in rural areas, and that statistic is inclusive of some states where more than 50% of the older populations are in rural areas. In addition, there is a disproportionate percentage of our veterans living in rural areas. In addition to the safe nationwide access the Postal Service provides, including to many remote and rural areas where there are few alternatives, CVS Health uses the Postal Service because it is an affordable delivery channel. This is especially important for seniors and other vulnerable populations who need mail order medicines, but for whom cost is a critical consideration. CVS Health is continuously looking for the optimal blend of affordability and service options to best serve our patients, ensuring reliable deliveries. The Postal Service's continued presence in the package delivery business is critical to ensure our patients have access to affordable, reliable delivery service for mail order medicines. Competition in the package space is important, and to that point, we do utilize the other large US-based package delivery companies as well.
If we're thinking about kind of Etsy and the pandemic and kind of what USPS has meant to us, it's been a lifeline in many ways. The USPS, as well as online retail, has been a huge lifeline for many Americans, both in terms of being able to get things, and then for many people who may have had hours cut or jobs lost in the wave of shutdowns and other things that kind of resulted in kind of diminished economic opportunity for many Americans. Our sellers are all over the country. They're in 99.9% of the counties of the country. But they predominantly kind of index in a rural to suburban environment versus an urban environment. And as many of you know on the call, especially in those rural environments, access is a critical thing. And so as we're thinking about how it relates to where those sellers are coming from and kind of their ability to kind of take their creations, take their products and put them into the market and be able to share them with the buyers on our site, shipping is a major item as it relates to both an access perspective and a cost item. And so that's why we think it's important for most of the creative people who use Etsy to be able to sell their goods using the USPS to ship them. The vast majority of our sellers do ship via USPS, and especially for lightweight items like those masks, being able to deliver those to residential addresses, the Postal Service is really the most reliable and affordable option because it's already going to every house every day. And in contrast, we know that with the private express carriers and others, now just imagine you're a shop of one, you're kind of a business of one. Think about just the sheer volume of kind of transactions you would have to even be kind of making sense from a cost perspective. But like one of the larger express carriers, it's just not there. And so when we're looking at that micro business, we know that some of those express carriers are also kind of providing like residential or rural surcharges to over something like 24,000 zip codes. And so it's both an access issue and a cost perspective, and that's why a lot of our sellers ultimately prefer USPS.
Right. Just a little bit of background about Pitney Bowes. Pitney Bowes is an American company that helps over 750,000 small business clients and some of the largest US retailers craft solutions for delivering mail and packages to their customers. We handle 17 billion pieces of mail a year where we pre-sort it and then the Postal Service delivers it the last mile. Just to give you help you understand that number, if we were a postal service, we'd be the third largest in the world based on the amount of mail we process each year. On the package side, we handle over 100 million packages physically, and then over 400 more digitally through labels and tracking. Because our clients are both letter mail and package shippers, we understand the incredible value of the Postal Service's 6-day-a-week integrated delivery network. So I thought I'd spend my time talking a little bit about that today. While like others on the call, we work with all the express carriers, we work primarily with the Postal Service because that's what our clients prefer. And that's because the Postal Service delivers 6 days a week to every address in America, and the express carriers don't. The Postal Service's package business is growing and it's profitable, not only because of the increase in e-commerce, but also because the Postal Service enjoys economies of scope between its letter and package delivery services. Because the Postal Service is delivering both mail and packages together as part of this integrated network, it can realize cost efficiencies that allow it to provide both services more affordably. As Congress intended, and John will tell you this, the Postal Service passes those efficiencies to American businesses and consumers in the form of lower prices. And the Postal Service, in the profits the Postal Service is making on its packages, help defray costs of sustaining a nationwide delivery network. So it's really a win-win for the Postal Service and for American businesses like many on this panel, and our clients and consumers like many of you on this call and your constituents that you work for.
As some of you may know, Amazon has over 2.5 million sellers that sell in our stores, and 1.7 million of these sellers are small and medium-sized businesses. Now, some of our small businesses ship their own items, but many rely on the affordable delivery of the U.S. Postal Service. At Amazon, we always start with our customers and we work backwards. And we've been very proud of the fact that we've been able to help our customers across the country receive a variety of essential products and services throughout the pandemic. As Jeff mentioned earlier, the Postal Service has been a real lifeline to Americans everywhere, and we've been proud to be able to partner with them on behalf of our customers during this time. In order to meet our customer promise, we pre-sort everything in our fulfillment centers, and we use the Postal Service to help us with that last mile. Now, we also use UPS. We also use our own last mile carrier, but we really do need the capacity to meet customer demand. And just to reiterate one thing is that our partnership with the Postal Service is mutually beneficial. As John mentioned earlier, the Postal Service package delivery business is a real bright spot. Just the last year, the package business contributed $11 billion to the Postal Service's bottom line. In addition, it has really been vital to helping to sustain the agency during the pandemic. Without packages, the Postal Service would be forced to raise prices on other mail services, and it also would have certain consumers, particularly those who live in rural areas, it would give them fewer shipping options. And so there's really just no question that the Postal Service's package delivery business is good for the Postal Service, it's good for consumers, it's good for small businesses, and it's also good for the economy. And then just finally, I'll reiterate what Kate mentioned earlier, and that's just that we support the delivery of mail-in packages 6 days a week. This integrated network helps to keep the Postal Service's package delivery services affordable, and it's also good for the overall health of the Postal Service.
But you take a look at consumer shopping trends and how those may have changed forever. And, some people just may prefer to continue to online shop, for the foreseeable future. Retailers are taking that into account. And a lot of them, especially the small retailers, have invested heavily in their e-commerce infrastructure to, make their products widely available online to customers wherever they are in the country. So definitely expect package volume to remain high even after we get kind of past this phase of the pandemic.
I hope those of you listening in get a flavor for the critical nature and the critical role of the United States Postal Service, both in serving the American consumer, but also supporting American businesses. And as I said, opening comments, really does act as a critical pillar of the fabric of this nation's economy. And preservation of that for the economic recovery that we're all hoping for, I think, is absolutely essential. And just a final reiteration of a point that some of our speakers made. As a coalition and our members understand, price increases are going to happen. Package prices through USPS have gone up and have gone up fairly routinely, but those price increases were driven by market forces, by the competition, by the dynamic marketplace. There's private delivery services, UPS, FedEx, and others as well as the UPS. And that dynamic marketplace is what we are concerned about. What we are deeply opposed to are so-called artificial, non-market-based price increases, either dictated by a change in the law or dictated under a regulation or by any other means. We want to preserve that open, competitive market because it's good for America. Again, on behalf of all of our members here today and many members of the Package Coalition who were not with us in person, thank you for your time. Thank you for your interest. You or your boss have a question, a concern, or it be needing some kind of material, you'd reach out to us. Consider us a resource for work going forward, and we'll do our best to get it. So stay safe, everybody. Join us, and peace.